right, welcome everyone to episode 2 of Traders Talk, the best Forex podcast, where we interview some of the best traders, some of the best prop firm traders out there. So we can hear a little bit about their struggle, their story, how they kind of achieve some of their goals. So we can use that as fuel to, light our own fire, right? Use that as motivation. So I am extremely honored, man, today to have Etienne from Desire to Trade. I'm sure everybody who's watching this has to know who he is. I mean, if you've ever tried to find any kind of Forex content on YouTube, you cannot miss this face because he's everywhere. And I'm really honored because my trading journey really kind of started from Etienne's channel, because when I really started getting into trading and trying to find content on YouTube, it's like I always found Etienne's videos, and it kind of inspired me because everything else was like there was all this flashiness and all this other stuff. But with 18, I just saw a regular trader who was just trying to get better at trading, help other people, and looked like he was living a normal life, which is kind of all I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was trade and live a normal life. So it was a big inspiration for me. And I'm so thankful that 18 put this content out there on YouTube. I remember going through a lot of struggles, man. And I used to go to 18's channel and watch some of his motivational content that he puts out, which are some amazing videos. So anybody who's watching this right now, I need you guys to go to 18's channel. It's going to be in the link in the description below. And you need to start from the bottom and go all the way up, because there's so much good content on his channel. It's crazy. It's honestly crazy. You have to go check it out. 18 also has a program that we're going to talk about as well. But we'll get started with the podcast. 18, how are you today?
Very good, very good. Good to be here, of course. I'm happy to be here and share lessons or anything to help people. My pleasure.
Awesome. So now, 18, you have been trading for, I think, has it been 9 years now, or have you been like full-time trading for about 8 years now?
Yeah, 8 years now. I began trading 2013, so it's been a while.
Okay.
It looks like a much longer time than I thought. So, yeah.
That's a long time ago. So, like, back in 2013, how did you first find out about, like, what is Forex and, like, who introduced you to it?
So I thought I was just kind of try trading out for the first time in 2013. I just wanted to kind of try out in any way I could. So I ended up opening an account for stocks, trading stocks.
Okay.
And then at some point, my mom took a course to learn to invest in Forex. They had like these courses online in Canada that you could take for like, I don't know, 2 sessions in the evening or something to be able to invest in Forex. She took that course for no particular reason, just to learn. And that's why I got introduced to it for the first time. I had no clue what it was before. And I just began that, it's pretty cool. You can trade currencies, you can trade coffee, you can trade these different things, these indices, these commodities. And I just thought, that's interesting. I'll give it a try. And then I went to Forex after and kind of never went out after.
Okay, so then out of your 8 and 9 years, how long have you actually been like full-time trading for, like where you stopped at like working a job and you're like, this is just what I want to do?
I went full-time in 2017. So it's been like about 4 years now full-time.
Okay, awesome. And then during that first like starting period, right? Like now there's so much content on Forex. Everybody's selling a course. Like there's too much content at this point, right? But when you must have started in 2013, 14, I know you talked about the course. How did you go about finding, was it just more trial and error that you kind of went through and figured it out on your own?
Yeah, it was a lot of like, trading is easy. I'll just figure it out myself for some time. And I just kind of went that way. So I started to watch the videos, started to read some books. And I started to just like take trades on myself, try to make it work. And of course, it didn't work, like, never worked the first time like that. And then I got introduced to different things, different strategies online, especially mostly on YouTube, I should say, and on some podcasts. There was like very few podcasts back then in trading, but a few of them, one by Kimura that was doing a Trading Heroes podcast that was really good back then. And that's kind of what pushed me to learn more about trading, kind of figure it out. And for the first 2 years, I pretty much had no progress. I was like back and forth. And it all ended with like a big margin call I had. I traded in the S&P that I took for... A strategy I had at the time that was like really good for me. I thought it was like really amazing, and it worked like really, really well. But so I thought I'll just take the trade on the S&P. It works out fine. I'll just be able to make a lot of money that way. So I took this trade. I took like a small risk at first, but as price started to pull back and then go closer to my stop loss, I just started to add positions to it. Like, it's gonna come back. It's gonna come back. It's gonna come back. Add more positions to it over time. So I had like probably like around like 5 or 6 positions of maybe a total of like 25% of my account on that trade. And then I got an email from the broker saying, you got to close your trades. You close the margin call. If you don't close them, we'll have to close them for you and stuff. I said, oh, it's gonna go back. Nothing to do there. It's fine.
It never
And then
does.
next thing was like close with the margin call. So that was the kind of like the pinnacle, the lowest point in terms of me trying
Yeah.
to trade by myself and not being able to make it work.
So like, did that cause you to say, okay, now I have to, because everybody hits this stage in trading. Like I know I did. It was like last December. I just hit like an all-time low. I was just blowing accounts. It just, my system wasn't working. I felt like I needed to create a system that worked. I just feel like beating the forex markets is very difficult. It's a very difficult task. You have to have some very strict rules in place. With your entries, take profit. Everything has to be very systematical. Otherwise, I just feel like you're just gonna run around in circles. So, did that cause you to say, okay, I need to stop and I need to create a system? Like, did you start revive? Did you do something at that point? And did that change something with you with your trading?
Yeah, I almost gave up trading at that point. I was like, oh, trading doesn't work for me. I'll stop it for a while. So I decided to stop for a little bit. It only lasted about like a month or maybe less than that, like 3 weeks or so,
Yeah.
that I stopped trading and did pretty much nothing about trading. Then I'm like, oh, I'll go back to trading. I'll try to make it work again. So I decided to take some more courses, learn some more things. And that's when I actually started to travel. I was trading in Hong Kong back then. So I did a student exchange
Okay.
there for 6 months. And I kind of was trading at the same time, kind of wasn't trading that much. I was like on and off a
Okay.
little bit, placing trades when I could, not placing trades sometimes. And it kind of went stagnant for a while there until I really kind of took it seriously after. And we can talk about this if you want also.
Okay. Awesome. So at that time, even then, you were kind of traveling at and kind of still trying to make trading work.
Yeah, so that was my first experience with with traveling. So I signed up for a student exchange in Hong Kong. So I traveled from
Okay.
Montreal
Okay.
to Hong Kong for 6 months to study there. And that's kind of
Okay.
where I got introduced to travel a lot because I didn't really travel that much before. I was traveling like maybe once a year for
Mhm.
vacation, like go to the
Right.
US, something, go not too far from my home. But
Right.
first time
Right.
traveling like really far from home and being exposed to different cultures, different countries, that was back then. That's like 2014.
Okay. Awesome. Um. Okay. So here's the $1 million question. How long do you think is there a timeline when you're like, okay, it took me 3.5 years to become profitable? Was there like a certain time period you think you achieved profitability, or like a break even stage where you're like, okay, this is now starting to work. I can maybe have a future in this.
Yeah, that's when I came back from my student exchange in Hong Kong. Like I was really pissed off because I wanted to find a way to be able to travel more after that exchange. Like I
Yeah.
didn't want to have to go back to a job in Canada, and so that's why I had like really full motivation to be able to work on it. And I
Yeah.
ended up going to I saw they had this meetup in Canada in Montreal. They had this trader meetup, so
Okay.
I signed up to go there. It was like a free meetup every month where traders would kind of meet around and discuss, exchange ideas and things. So I decided to go there one time. And then
Okay.
eventually I got a coach. I was able to learn a lot more in just that evening of like the meetup than many years of me trying to learn online by myself, which was a really big game changer for me. I thought, well, people have
Mhm.
all the answers I need to learn trading. So I just got to talk with them, learn from them, and I'll probably be able to make it work. So I got a
Okay.
coach, and that coach kind of started to kind of form me into things that I didn't even know existed before. And that's when I started to see, oh, well, that could make sense if you look at it this way. Right? It's not just about sit-ups or about like just entries that way. It's more about like a
Mhm.
whole principle of looking at how the market works, how the market behaves, when it makes sense to trade, when it makes sense not to trade. And that's what kind of started to make me feel more confident about placing trades and having a possibility to trade forex in the future.
Okay. Awesome. So at that time, when you did you have to pay for did you pay for the coach and stuff at the time?
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So what's like one mistake that, if you could go back, you would fix, but also, it would be something for like beginner traders or even break even traders currently that you think that should be improved right away. Like if you had to go back in time, or if these people that are watching right now, they're break even or they're not profitable yet. What is like one biggest thing that you think has to be done first before you can even move on to the next step?
You mean first, or to be able to kind of go outside of the break-even phase? I'll tell you both, right?
Like, yeah,
So,
both.
okay. So if you're starting out, right, you gotta kind of, I think, like there's a period for sure of trying like strategies, trying different things. But at some point, you're gonna start. You have to start to focus on like one thing you want to trade, one strategy, one type of trading. And the biggest thing people do is like they have 5 strategies they want to trade. They think if they trade more strategies, they'll be able to make more money. If they keep learning different tools, they'll be able to kind of find the key and make more money that way. But that just ends up being like really counterproductive. The more strategies you have in the beginning, the more complexity you add, and the more you like make mistakes, miss trades, and don't have any results overall. So you gotta look at, for sure, spend some time learning different things. But after, you gotta kind of focus on one thing and really dedicate all your time to it. Like dedicate your time to that specialty, that kind of trade, and become the master at it. Because otherwise, it's no point to try to master 5 styles if you're gonna end up being good at none.
Yeah, for me, it was like when I first started out, especially after the first year, I was just hopping from strategy to strategy. I would go buy a new course, and then I would do that for 2 months, and then I would be like, this is not working. Let me go buy a new course. This is not working, and then I would just. It was like a circle of doom. It was like I was going crazy.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't focusing on one thing. And then finally, like, the start of this year, I was like, I have to find something that works, because I'm a really big believer in, I feel like everybody's personalities are different. And I think some people's personalities match better with certain strategies. I don't know. That's how I feel. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like some people are better at holding trades, so they would be better at swing trading. Some people like can't hold a trade for 6 hours. For me, I had to find, like, I knew, like, I wanted to be in and out of trades within a day. I had to find a strategy that kind of matched my personality. And I think when I kind of found that strategy, I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to stick to. I'm going to give this strategy 6 months, and I'm not going to look anywhere else, because it's always like looking at the next shiny object, right? Somebody online is going to be like, oh, I have this fancy indicator or this fancy strategy. This is what's going to make you rich. Look at my car, right?
Yeah. Well, that's another big point. The fact that someone says, oh, it's this method that you got to trade to succeed. Like, there's been all these trends. There's been price action, trading like the banks. There's been indicator for a while before that. There's been order flow. There's been supply and demand.
Yeah.
All these things are all good tools. You could use them and be successful, but it doesn't mean that because one person says you got to use this one, that you have to use this one for sure.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, it's a lot of marketing, and then recently there's been, like, everybody's trading smart money concepts. I don't even know if that was a thing that you, like, a couple of years ago when you were trading.
No, that's also a new thing. It's like trading like the bank, smart money. Yeah, it's the same thing.
And I think there's strategies within those that actually work, but I don't think anybody should be selling you one indicator or one system. I saw your post the other day on YouTube about that, which I agree with 100%. But yeah, I think the best thing is, like, so did you at that time when you kind of switched to full-time trading, did you just have like one main strategy you started using in 2017 and just started perfecting your system at that point?
Yeah, exactly. So what that coach taught me basically was like the big thing for me was to be able to, like, before I used to focus on all the sit-ups, and I was like really good at like trading sit-ups, but sit-ups don't work unless you apply them in the right context. Right. So I would like see this setup on my chart and trade them anywhere on the chart. But the thing is, I had like a really terrible win rate, and I was really bad at anything. I wasn't having any profit there. So what I learned to do was being able to filter, when should I take this setup and when should I not take this setup based on how the market behaves. So when it's trending, for me it was bad. I shouldn't trade when it's trending because I was a reversal trader at that time. My setup wasn't reversal. Still is today, but the same principle there. And when it's sideways, I got to be able to pick the setup at the right place. If you trade within the range in the middle, it's pointless because you could go up and down, and you're going to be stopped out all the time anyway. So being able to kind of filter out that for my only one strategy was really helpful at that point. And then I went full time with that strategy only after. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right. So the other thing I was going to ask you was, a lot of I feel like a lot of new traders struggle with emotions and psychology just from that one stupid emotion. I've taken, some of my FTMO accounts to like 25%, and then I'm like, let's take it to 30. Like, it doesn't make sense to do some of those stuff. So now I know to stay away from good at like really happy emotions. I can't trade if I'm too happy. It's not good for me. We all know you shouldn't really be trading if you're upset or you're sad and things like that, right? But people do it anyways. Like, what's your take on this? And do you have certain emotions that you, like, if you feel a certain type of way, you're not going to trade today, like, you'll just be like, I'm not going to be in the market today?
Yeah. And this is a really good point, and good job on being aware of these emotions for you, because that takes a while to be able to understand. Some people are trading like 10 years and they don't understand this yet. So that's really good. That's really awesome. Firstly, these emotions are a big part of it. For me, what really makes a big difference and what I try to avoid is when I feel like I gotta prove to someone. I gotta prove something. Like
Right.
let's say I jumped to crypto like recently, for example, and then I want to be able to talk about it on YouTube, right? So I have to take trades to be able to
Yeah.
talk about it on YouTube. I
Right.
gotta have some proof for that. And then I'm like, oh well, today there's no trade, but I have to take some trades because I have to prove people that it works, right? So
Right. Right.
now I can control this much better. But that idea of trying to prove people something, I got to stay away from that because when I try to do this, I try to take too many trades that don't end
Right.
up being good trades anyway, and then I just have bad results after. So it used to be this like that's a recent example, right? Before it was when I was trying to scale up my trading, I was trying to go from like this capital, like let's say 50K to 75K or 100K, for example. And I had these issues where I would try to kind of go forward, but then it would be like really scary, and I had to prove myself to that I was able to do it. And that idea of again proving to myself, proving to other people, was always
Yeah.
bringing me back down to the same level as before. So I had to work with the coach to do that. I worked with Randy Owl
Oh
for
wow.
some time, and that really
Okay.
make a big difference for me. So, but it doesn't matter that coach or not. You can work with someone else, as long as you
Right.
understand also for yourself what mistakes you make and what things you got to correct. That's a big part of it also.
So what did you think the most you got out of the whole coaching process was it more psychology or was it like technical analysis? It was more psychology, I'm gonna assume.
Yeah. So back in the beginning at 2015 or so, 2016, that was technical because I didn't know technicals yet at that
Okay.
time. I
Okay.
wasn't full time yet. Now the coaching with Randy Howell, that's purely psychology.
Okay. Okay. And I'm gonna assume back when you went full time in when you went full time in 2017, were there any prop firms at that time that you had available
No,
to utilize?
none of them. None of them. No.
There was nothing, right?
So what happened is I got funded by. I actually met a guy from the meetup I was going to in Montreal every single month. I ended up
Mm-hmm.
starting to kind of be the co-organizer there. I was going there every month or so, and then I met this guy who was sort of like a trader investor who had a lot of capital. He was trying to trade with it, but not having any
Mm-hmm.
success with it that much. And so I went
Right.
to meet him one time at his office in Montreal. We began to chat a little bit. I showed him what I was doing in the market. Then he started to, just from that meeting, give me some capital to trade for him, a little bit of capital, around like $70,000 first. And
Yeah.
then from there, I was trading his capital a little bit. We would share the profit half and half to begin with. And then he gave me
Right.
more capital over time, and I was able to scale that way. And that's what really helped me to go full time, because otherwise I wouldn't have never been able
Yeah.
to do that. To save enough money to go full time and travel and just be done with it, that would have been really tough.
Yeah, I remember seeing you talk about this and I was like, wow. Because it's a pretty big commitment to take somebody's capital. Like was that because that can really have an effect on your nerves, right? Because it's not like
Yeah.
prop trading where it's okay if you lose the money. Do you think that really helped you elevate to the next level because you were trading somebody else's money, so you have to be super careful, make sure you didn't make any mistakes, things like that?
Yeah, the first 3 4 months I was like a bit more stressed out than before. I was taking like really small risk in the trades. I was pretty much at my same risk as before, like a
Mm-hmm.
really tiny risk on that big account for kind of being able to practice it a little bit more. Then I was
Right.
able to increase that over time and begin to treat it more as a job than just trading. So when you trade for
Right.
yourself, it's like it's your own capital. You can do mistakes and things. But when you trade for someone else, it's more like a job. Like you gotta be there. You gotta do reviews. I had to meet him every month with the stats. Even though I didn't care so much about the stats, it was just to kind
Mm-hmm.
of do a report and talk about things. We would like meet up for dinner every month or something, and that was pretty
Okay.
good to kind of be able to stay accountable and kind of make progress in the capital. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, like one thing somebody told me in the start was like, if you want to be successful with this, you have to treat this like a business. You have to treat this seriously, because a lot of people come into trading as like just a game or like gambling, because it can sometimes feel like that, and people don't take it seriously. But January 1st of this year, I was like, I'm gonna take this like a business, just like any other work. I'm gonna make sure I write everything down. I'm gonna be very accountable. So I think when I switched my perception from it's just a game, whatever, maybe I'll get rich with one trade, to it's a slow progress. You're just gonna keep improving over year over year, and you have to treat it like a business and treat it very seriously. I think that can change a lot for a lot of people when you start taking it, just like you said, you started taking it like a business, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I wrote a whole post about it a while ago where like there's so many things you can do like a business that people don't think about in trading. So like I like to see my strategies as my employees. So if they don't
Oh
perform
wow.
well, you can fire them, you can reduce their salary, you can do different things with them. But they shouldn't be all like full maxed out all the time. It doesn't make sense that way. Like you wouldn't promote an
Right.
employee who's doing like a really crappy job. So that's one thing. Then there's a part of like the marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
In trading, like people think you're gonna be like you're at home, you can do your own stuff and things, but you still gotta be good at marketing because you still gotta
Yes.
be able to find investors, find
Right.
prop firms. Maybe one
Right.
day you have a bigger goals to kind of start I don't know a business around your trading, like selling EAs or something. You still
Mm-hmm.
gotta kind of learn marketing, learn communication that way, and that's still really important. Production, you still got to be good at creating strategies. Right? Sometimes your strategies work well, super good,
Mm-hmm.
but other times it's not so good. So you got to be able to work on them, find ways to do things better. So you got to have a production process, and you got to have systems for doing that. Like if you just like you have to find ways to improve your strategy or your style, but you have no
Mm-hmm.
clue how to do it, you're gonna have a hard time. So I like to make systems for me to go back on things. Like I make a list of things I could test before,
Yep.
and I have a system to test these things and implement them over time. That makes things a lot
Okay.
better, and you don't have to struggle with like the back and forth and you're never like stuck in the corner basically. So that's pretty good.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm gonna assume that you've used a lot of strategies over your 8 years. At the point that you are now, after 8 years of trading, do you think like are you just like you have your two, three strategies, that's it, or are you always still looking for other ways to like change them or improve them, or even a completely new strategy?
Yeah, up to like 2 years ago, I had only one strategy still, only my Bollinger Band reversal. That's the only thing I
Right.
was trading. I
Right.
was trading
I've seen that.
these reversals with the Bollinger Band. And roughly 2 years ago, I started to research a bit more in things. I started to look into cryptos a bit more. I started
Right.
to look at trends a little bit more also. And I started to add these other strategies that now are kind of part of it. Now I have like three strategies, two that are really good. It's the Bollinger Band reversal, another
Right.
reversal one also when I missed the Bollinger Band. And then I have a third one for trends, basically. So that's the only three
Trend
things I
trading.
trade.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you have a certain amount of pairs that you that's all you trade, or are you open to every week looking at different pairs? 'Cause some people say, a lot of people you hear saying, oh, stick to one pair, master that pair. But for me, I'm trying to just find the right amount. I started with I narrowed it down to two pairs. And then I found that my strategy was just not getting enough setup. So I added a lot more. And I was having a lot of success, but recently I've just found that it's too many. So I'm just starting to cut down on them. Do you have like a certain amount of pairs that you think is like the optimal amount, or you think it just varies trader to trader?
Yeah, for sure it varies. For me, I have about 15 pairs that I follow. More like maybe now
Wow.
12 because I cut a few of them recently.
Yeah.
So I have these 12 pairs I look at. So on a given week, I'll maybe take trades on maybe three or four of them, and that's about it. So the reason why I have 15 is because I have more choice that way, and I don't force
Right.
trades that way. So I only pick the best ones out of the 15 to trade that week, and I'm able
Okay.
to focus on the ones that are at the right zones in the market and just focus on those. So I have about like now
Okay.
15 pairs, maybe around like 10 cryptos also now that I follow.
Oh
So
wow.
it's not too much. I feel like it's a good balance of not too much.
Okay. And then so Etienne, do you have like a routine you go on like on Sundays? Do you spend some time on the charts on Sundays preparing for the week, and then you go, okay, this is what I'm gonna potentially look for, or do you just show up Monday morning and go from there?
No, that's a good point. I never show up Monday morning not prepared because that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So what I do is I usually for me it's Saturday rather than Sunday. I prefer
Okay.
Saturday for that.
Okay.
So Saturday I go back to my trading journal. I look at all my trades I've taken for the past week. I'll usually like classify them, see how I performed, see what mistakes I made. I'll make a list of those
Okay.
mistakes to correct next time, and then I'll look at my chart. So I'll look at to all the charts for the zones if they change or anything of the sort. I'll try to put those zones to my algo because I have an algo that runs for one of my strategies that I have to update every week for the
Oh
zones.
wow. Okay.
Then from there, I'll go and make sure those zones are good. I'll look at all the pairs
Mm-hmm.
again on different time frames, and then I'll be pretty much good
Yep.
for the week after.
Okay, awesome, 18. I also want to let you guys know, 18, if you want to just fill us in a bit more, you have a program I saw. It's like a full course. It's to help people get funded. Do you want to just tell us a bit more about that and how people can find out about
Yeah,
it?
sure. That program came out of a need of people who like so many people reach out to us where they had failed the platform challenges. Like these platforms are like the key
Yeah.
now and like the big deal at this point. So so popular. And the thing is, people fail. I think the failure rate is like 81 to 84% with these prop firms. So that's really high.
Wow.
And so people would like take our course. They would sometimes fail these prop firms, not because their strategies were bad, but because they didn't approach the challenge the right way. So we had to make a course on that. We had to create something to help people with that. So we created this course as a course that help people with passing prop firm challenges. And so what we do is we help them build the right strategies. We have them usually solidify their own strategy before they take a challenge. We have them work on their mindset, because people who take challenges sometimes have the wrong mindset. It's more like a gambling mindset compared to a mindset where you just like try to go with the flow. And we have them build the proper risk management for the prop firms. Like, prop firms like FTMO, they have a 30-day challenge, which is really, really tight for people who are not used to it. So they got to be able to kind of modify the risk management over time. So the risk per trade when you begin the challenge is not the same as when you end the challenge. You should be able to increase your risk a little bit more as you go forward in the challenge. So that if you have like a bad run in the beginning, you can recover over time. Just an example of that. So we help people with this. We coach them along the way. We make sure they're on the right track. And we found people who take a course and pass the challenge really well after. So we've been able to flip it like an 80% pass rate now. So that's pretty good.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah, guys, I'll leave the description for that below if you guys want to check that out later. And then so while I was YouTubing you the other day, I didn't know that you actually have an interview with FTMO as well. This was like last 2020, correct?
Yeah, it's possible. It's been a while with COVID. I'm not too sure. But
it says March. It says March 2020. So was FTMO your first prop trading firm, or were there other ones before that that were available?
No, so I've only been trading for investors, not for prop firms.
Okay.
To me now, it's really worth it with my circumstance. They just interview me for the fun of it, for me to share my knowledge. But
understood. And I even saw that when the first time I got funded with FTMO, I saw when you go to their courses section, you're also available there. Like people can actually go to your website right through FTMO. So that's really cool. Now, one thing I find amazing with your channel, and this is why I keep telling people you need to go see Etienne's channel. There are so many interviews that you've done. Like I can't even count how many interviews you've done. I think you must have done over 200-300 interviews at this point. With like professional traders, like real traders, like people who do this for a living. So I want to first of all congratulate you on the fact that you even interviewed that many people. You must have learned a lot through each interview. Me just sitting here talking to you, I'm learning certain things. Do you think that there's certain obviously these people don't have a magic wand or something. Is there certain criteria that makes these people consistent over like a long period of time? Like, do they all have a certain, or most of them have a certain criteria? Like, what is it that these people are able to have this as a full-time gig and, they're professional and they do this all the time? Is there something that you think you noticed over all of those interviews?
Yeah, one thing I need to add before that's the fact that recently we reached out to a few of them or quite a lot of them that were interviewed before on the podcast a few years ago. And you'd be surprised how many are not trading anymore for some reason. And so even though they're good at what they do, they're successful at some point. It doesn't mean they'll be successful forever for sure. Like things change over time. But apart from that, I think that what makes people successful long term, like the people who are there year after year, is first of all, they have multiple strategies that they trade. So they're able to make money in different market conditions. And they're really fast to adapt. So you've seen when the Forex market decreases in volatility, people go to other markets. They're really fast to jump to other market and be able to adapt there. I think that's a really, 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 really big key, is being able to adapt to different markets in different conditions and being able to kind of go with whatever happens in the market. Other than that, all like the habits, like the reviews, journaling, the consistency are really big for most people. That's something that just makes a big difference. And the other thing I got to point out, and that's something that I firmly believe it myself, people hate me for this sometimes, is people who are successful long term, they have multiple streams of income. Like they don't make money only from trading, because trading could have a couple of tough months. Then maybe you got to go back to your job and you give up trading then. So that's really bad.
Yeah.
So the more income you have, maybe from like investing, from a business, from different
anything.
Things, the more incomes you have that way, the more you are able to sustain trading long term. And when the drawdown comes, you're not too affected by it. You can still proceed and trade anyway. And your mindset still stays pretty strong with these different income streams you have.
That's a really good point because I remember somebody telling me a long time ago that, all good traders have a losing week, a losing month, and even a losing quarter, right? So like a losing quarter when you don't have a job could be really damaging. So yeah, that's a very good point. And I think it probably makes the psychology a little bit easier if you definitely have more streams of income. But yeah, I think you brought up a good point. Now, the other day I read something on your YouTube, and I've heard you talk about it before a lot. You talk about don't really focus too much on your profits and your losses, but focus on creating a good system. Um, is
Yeah.
that like you mean like what do you mean by creating a good system? Is that like when you go and you review your journals and you like? Do you want to just kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so that was in a video I've done about people who something about looking into PNL. People who are looking at their PNL all the time and try to exit their trades at the best level, like the top or something in the trade. And so
Right.
you have two choices. You can be there on the chart 24/7 looking at your trade, trying to exit at the perfect time,
Mm-hmm.
or you can be kind of easygoing with it. So you enter your trades, leave it run until take profit or stop loss, and you basically don't care about it. You just let it run. And the trades
Right.
could be up like a lot, then could go down a little bit more, and you could be as a small loss, you could be at a much less profit, but you don't care, right? Because your goal is not to be able to look at the PNL all the time. Instead of that, you should
Right.
be focusing on creating a good system. Like if people have issues with price being up and then coming back down, that's because the system is not properly done to be able to catch that move. So instead of
Mm-hmm.
trying to catch the time when the market does that, PNL, you should be looking at
Mm-hmm.
making a better system. A system that can
Right.
catch these moves or a system that can catch when market goes back down. So you don't stop out with a too big of a loss, or you're not stuck with a big profit that goes back into a tiny profit after. So
Right.
instead of trying to catch the market when it's perfect at the top, try to create a good system that can get you out of the market when it does something like this.
Okay. I guess for me, what that kind of for me personally, what I think that means is like I now what I do is like I know what my risk is, and part of my system also, which has helped me really make a lot more profits, has been and I want to get your opinion on this. Is like, do you? I know we already have a TP set, but most of the time we don't ever let it get there. Like, do you have a system in place to take profits? Like, okay, if I make a certain amount, I have to remove it off of the table. Because I've started implementing that, and I think that's introduced a lot of success to me.
Yeah, for me, not so much. I tend to have a fixed take profit. I let the trades go
Okay.
into that take profit. Again, it depends on the strategy. Like if you trade trends, it's going to be different than if
Yeah.
you trade reversals. So if you trade
Right.
reversals, it just makes sense to do that because like price is normally going to chop out a little bit during your trade. That's
Right.
fine. So I tend to have a fixed take profit. I let it go to the take profit. But if I trade trends, I'll be more flexible with like having a maybe even no take profit, just like a trading stop loss that I move over time. So that makes more
Okay.
sense to me because like you kind of bring your stop loss to the pullback as price goes in your direction. That's much
Okay.
better. But if trade like reversals, it does make sense to do that. So I think it's a
Right.
good idea.
Because
And I don't
yeah.
like to like close a trade completely, but I could maybe take half the trade, or I could maybe move my stop loss closer and closer to be able to minimize the
Mhm.
risk I have on that trade.
Okay. Awesome. And then at this point, are you still journaling all your trades, or like you just do for some
Yeah.
strategy? And that's like a suggestion
So
you would make.
yeah, of course. So I have like two different journals. So for my algo, I have a my FX book simply
Hmm.
that basically is automated. So the algo takes trades just like the my FX book, and that's all done. For my manual trades, I do that also. Plus, I have my own version of journaling, which is like I put trades in a platform called Trello. Trello is a free tool. It's like a board tool, similar
Okay.
to I think Notion and
Notion.
a few
Yes.
other tools are similar, where you can just like do some boards and you can put I put different cards for different trades. So I'll put an image of my trade there on the cards. I can see it really easily on trail like this, and then I'll put a comment below so to make sure to know what my mistake was in the trade and
Okay.
anything I did wrong in that trade. So I usually have like four columns, right? So I have one
Yeah.
that's a good winning trade, so trades that are profitable and that I follow my plan. Then I have a good losing trade that was not profitable, but I still follow my plan
Okay.
in those trades. Then I have a bad winning and a bad losing. So trades that were not following my plan
Right.
and were losing or winning in that case. So then I can see like really easily the bad trades are the ones I have to avoid. They're the one with mistakes. So if I can reduce those mistakes, and I'll try to write down what the mistakes are so I know easily
Hmm.
after. If I reduce those mistakes, my results will be better for sure. So that's something that makes a big difference for me, and it's kind of like a way to journal and find out the mistakes really fast. Plus, you see how
Hmm.
you execute, and you can refer back to your trades easily. I'm really visual,
Right.
so I want to see my trades again in the future. Just have to open Trello, go to my cards, and look at my trades and what are the best ones, and I can go back and relate to them anytime.
Yeah, I just started journaling. I hate writing stuff down. I have really bad handwriting. I started using Notion, and what I'll do is I'll take screenshots of, because I trade on the 1 hour and 15 minute. I'll take both screenshots of my entry and kind of like what happened, and then I'll put my comments there, so I can, like you said, you can go back and you can, you can go see what you did good and we'll see what you did bad. So yeah, that's a really good point, 18. So on a lighter note, man, are you still traveling these days, or have you kind of locked yourself down for COVID?
Yeah, I've been traveling in Thailand domestically for a while, so I rented a car for some time. I was going to different provinces, went in the north and the south for some time. It was really fun. I'll go back to Canada pretty soon, and I hope next year I'll be able to travel more, go to different countries, if the borders be open a bit more. That'll be really cool. Really looking forward to this. Just gotta wait for the restrictions to lower down a little bit more, I think.
That's awesome. I mean, one of the things that, man, really motivated me from seeing you was, there's all this stuff on YouTube with the flashiness and the Lamborghinis and whatever. I have no interest in that. What I really saw in you was like, you really had the time. Like for me, I'm not even trading. It's not about the money. It's really about the time freedom that it gives you, right? If you're able to trade full time, you have a lot of, because you shouldn't really be sitting on the charts all day anyways. That's very bad for you. So for me, it was really about the time freedom. And I remember I used to see your Instagram and I'd be like, oh my God, 18 is always traveling. He's, that was like the ultimate, like that was the goal. So I really followed you, and I really respect you for that. And coming back to this point here, a lot of people these days are trading with prop firms. Like it's a new thing. You can see like everybody wants a funded account. Like people think that once I get this 100K account, I'm just gonna be rich. All my problems are gonna go away. And I definitely want to let people know that's not true. This year I've probably had like over $500,000 in funding. Problems don't go away. It's still very stressful. And I know you don't trade a funded account, so maybe this question isn't the best for you. But I had somebody who wanted me to ask you this question. What do you think is an attainable goal per week or per month, risking 1%? If it's whether, like, let's say it's a prop firm, like you're funded with a prop firm. What do you think should be like a safe target? Because people are trying to do all these crazy things of get 20%, 30%, and then they end up blowing accounts. For me, I found like 5 to 7% is like the safe area. With your years of experience, like what would you suggest is like a good place that you should really be happy?
Yeah, in my mind, and that applies to pretty much any kind of account, whether you trade for yourself or prop firm, anywhere
Right.
from like 2 to 10%. 10% would be, like, of course, the highest. Like you don't want to go there every month for sure, because that brings some more
Yes.
risk. But anywhere from that range, you should be pretty good to go after.
Okay. So like, yeah, between 2 to 10% is good. I think that's a pretty safe range to stick with.
Yeah, you got to keep in mind that like people in hedge funds, like the big companies, they probably make around like 2% a month maximum. Like you've got these big guys who trade for big banks. I had a trader that knew trading for Goldman Sachs, and he was really happy to tell me about his gain of like 20% per year or 24% per year or something. And so that's like the bar is pretty low when you compare to that. So it means that if you can achieve more than that and you're consistent with it, then finding funding for prop firms for investors is pretty easy after.
Yeah, 100% correct. I think that's the safe amount. I've made over 10% a few times, and after 10%, it's just your psychology starts going off a little bit as well. So I think that's a pretty safe amount. And then, so around the topic of prop firms, what is your thought on prop firms? Do you think it's sustainable for some of the new traders to just keep using this prop firm money, or do you think it's better to work towards your personal capital, because like maybe long term you think prop firms is not going to be sustainable perhaps?
Yeah, well, there's a big problem with like prop firms overall, and I think the idea is good. Like the idea is to be funded by prop firm. You get your capital first, you kind of make profits, you can fund your own account after. I think that's a perfect idea, right? But you don't want to be relying on prop firms forever for a simple reason that what if the prop firm closes down the next day? Like what if you have like a $2 million with that prop firm or $1.2 million with that prop firm? Then the next day they're like, oh, we're gonna close our doors. Thank you for your business and things, but we gotta close. then you're stuck
Right.
with like no capital from one day to the next, and then you're stuck. You got to go with the prop firms that challenge again and things. So maybe that you had like a $40,000 income per month, then you go back and you have nothing after. Like that can be a big issue, right? So sure, you can go with like the main prop firms, the big ones and things, but there could still be things that could affect them. There could be flash crashes, there could be different things, and that could be really, really bad. So in my opinion, prop firms is just a step in the process. Like it's a step in the journey. You can do this to gain capital. Once you have it, and once you're close to this, then you can start to go full time after, or at least start to build your own account later. So it should never be something that you do forever, I think.
Forever.
If you want to start a fund, start your private fund, sure, go ahead. You can start your private fund. That could be the next step also when you're going full time. It's just a matter of taking that step to be able to go full time faster compared to saving like money for 10 years while working a job. It makes things easier and faster, but you got to kind of not stay there forever for sure. I really believe if you want to trade full time, you got to become independent and you got to kind of follow your own path. That's why I'm not a fan of like relying on anyone's indicator, anyone's tools. I don't want to have a currency meter from someone else that I have to rely on because I want to be able to do my own thing and focus on my own stuff that I build myself that I know works basically. So same thing with prop firm. I want to be able to rely on my own capital at some point.
And I agree. So an example of that would be, I'm not sure if you know, but this year Funding Talent kind of that was one of the prop firms that kind of I think they're fully shut down now. So the day they switched out was the day that I got my full 300,000. I did all the challenges. I worked really hard to get them, and that's the day that they shut down. So I was really upset at that day because I worked really hard to get those accounts. So that kind of sucked.
Yeah, no,
that really
sure. Yeah. Sure, they could give you a refund, but the point is that you still lost time with like the billing accounts, the paying for fees, and different things, and you doing the same thing with a different platform could take you a few months, and that's a big like missed opportunity or missed profit there.
Yeah, that was I feel really bad for some people who didn't really get paid out. A lot of people were depending on that money, so it's like a lot of these people were dependent on this prop firm, and like look what happened, right? They can just pull out at any point. They don't have to pay you. They don't have to even give you. Well, they gave us a refund, but I mean that's about it, right? So, so just a couple more questions. We'll just one thing I wanted to talk about. I think the one thing that a lot of people wanted me to ask you, and like people are struggling with, is psychology. So, do you have like a certain way that you improve your psychology, or over the years that you've done things to improve your psychology? I think that's where a lot of people are struggling with it at this. Just can't seem to control their emotions, or do you have anything to say to any new traders about that?
Yeah, the first step we talked about this before is being able to trade according to your personality. I know we discussed this earlier in the interview, and a good thing people can do when I suggest someone does this, it's pretty cheap way to find out, is you can take a disc profile test. So it's DISC. It's a test that I think Tony Robbins has one. You can just take it on the website for free. And if you want to upgrade like a paid version, it costs like maybe $20 or so.
Okay.
And what that does is you want to get your score for that disc profile. And I learned this, by the way, from Mandy Prashanjani, a psychologist in trading, who is really good at that. So it's not my own thing. It's really her who taught me that. If you are high in D and I, you tend to be a better day trader. And if you are low, you tend to be a better swing trader. If you are high, because you have a score for each other, by the way. So if you are high in S and C, you tend to be a better systematic trader. If you are low in S and C, you tend to be a better discretionary trader. So once you're there, you can kind of find out with your own style, based on where you are with the traders, what works well for you. For example, I'm really kind of in the middle of my D and I, so I'm more like a multiple time frame trader because it's in the middle, and so I can trade higher time frame and go a bit on lower time frame. And then my S and C are pretty high, so I'm a better systematic trader. I trade systems, like really clear rules, compared to some people who are more discretionary in that case. So that's the first step, because if you have the wrong styles, you'll be always not disciplined and always having the wrong things that you do in the market. From there, it's about understanding your triggers, right? What triggers you, what emotions you have. We discussed this also before. Understanding what happens, like what are these patterns that you're stuck in right now. And most patterns are all kind of closely related to not being worth enough or not feeling like you're worth enough, trying to prove other people. We discussed that. Of course, being too happy is another thing we discussed also. All these triggers, these patterns that happen in the market, when you can figure them out and understand yourself. And sometimes you have to have a psychologist to kind of put you in the right direction. I couldn't see this myself. I thought I had some issues. I thought first I was pretty good with the mindset, until that psychologist, Randy Howell, pointed out these things to me that I had to work on. So it took me some
Okay.
time to do that, and that's kind of where I learned. So once you've done that, it's time to go to exercise like breathing and meditations, these kind of things that can help. Journaling also helps with that, but that's only when you know what issues you got to work on. So
Right.
kind of a complex process, and I'm not sure if one can do it by themselves. And
Right.
I wish you could do it by yourself; it would be good, but you got to kind of have someone else to kind of look at you in a different perspective to find out where you have to work on.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that because I feel like this trading journey, I got to find out a lot about myself that I didn't even know about me. The type of person I am, the type of personality I have, my triggers. All of that stuff had to come together this year for me to actually to go to the next level. And one of the things that you just talked about, and I always talk about this, is like you have to figure out your personality, and then you have to find a strategy that will work. I guess it's exactly what you just said, right? So that's really cool that you got a chance to work with like. So is she just a psychologist or like a trading psychologist?
So Mandy and Randy are both trained psychologists. So they are actually Mandy is a trader herself.
Okay.
Randy is only a psychologist. Doesn't trade himself,
Okay.
but he works with like really insane cases of different psychology things. So he's really good at that.
Okay, wow. Awesome. So that was really cool. I just wanted to touch up on a quick point. It just hit me like you said when you did a lot of interviews with people and now you're reaching back out to them and they're not trading anymore. Do they ever tell you the reason why, like why they've kind of stopped trading?
Yeah, and not really. I think people don't really want to talk about this that much. I
Yeah,
think some of
right.
them, like most of them, they move to like a different business. So either trading
Right.
was not profitable for them, or I guess they're not passionate about it anymore. That's possible.
Hmm.
Um, or probably that. I don't see any other ways
Right.
around it. I
Yeah.
don't see anything else that could be affecting this, or they just didn't want to do it. They didn't have the passion for it anymore. They didn't like trading anymore. It's possible, or it was too hard for them
That's
to make an
true.
income. So some of these things, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I could see why somebody would lose passion over time because let's just be honest, trading is kind of it's pretty boring. You have to keep your emotions very in check. You have to be very
Yeah.
systematical, and it can also take a big toll on your emotional health. Like um, when you're struggling, and I know you've probably been through this in the start. I went through this a lot, and this is when I would come to your channel and watch those motivational videos. It can be very taxing on your emotions when you're just losing all the time. You don't have a strategy that works. It can be very emotionally taxing. And I thought like once I became profitable, that problem would go away. But it's definitely gotten better. But even right now, because I did quit my job and I am a full-time trader now, it's still very stressing at times. Having to really, this is my only source of income now, so it can be really stressing at times. So I can understand, why it won't be for everybody. But does that did it kind of get easier for you over the years? Like, is it like less stressful now that you have all these systems in place? You know what kind of person you are, your personality. We just want to know, does it get better after
Yeah,
all these
it's a good
years?
question. So when I have like for sure things are less tough than they were beginning. Like I have less pressure to perform. But when I have like a bad 2 weeks, it definitely gets like a bit more stressful. So that's for sure.
Right.
And that's for pretty much any trader. They just have like these times where they have pressure and stress. You gotta learn to deal with it for sure. You gotta let it not affect you trading too much. But that's still
Right.
tough for me. When I have like 3 weeks that are like break even, only 1 week you get a profit that month, that gets more stressful also.
Yeah, I
So
bet.
those are things for me. But then the next challenge, like regarding the aspect of the passion for trading, is like when you make money, then you end up you do the same thing all the time. Like you do the same process day in day out, the same routine, the same setup. It kind of
Yeah.
gets boring for a while.
Boring.
So the next challenge is being able to adapt and kind of find a way to keep the passion alive, like the interest of like doing new things, while keeping the same old stuff that works in your trading. That's the thing I had a hard time with recently. Is like I was doing the same thing forever all the time, and I got kind of bored of it after a while. So I had to find ways to do different things, go to different markets, create different strategies. Not because they will be profitable, for example, necessarily, but because I have other things to work on and kind of keeps me in the game,
Keeps you
basically.
going.
So that's the other
Right.
challenge after.
Okay. Awesome. Man, I honestly learned a lot. Including everybody else. I'm gonna go back to the part where you talked about. I think it's called the disc test. That's what it was.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go back and re-watch that part. I think that was really interesting. I think that would be really cool for everyone to go and try out. And it's been amazing everything that you've said today, Etienne. It was honestly it was a pleasure to even have you on here, an honor. I've been watching you for a long time, and that's why I'm telling everybody, you guys need to go check out Etienne's channel. There's so much motivational content on your channel. Before we wrap this up, Etienne, is there any advice? Because I have like a lot of new traders that are following me, people that are just starting out, and all they really want to do is just get a prop firm, fund them, but they don't really even have strategies that work. So do you have any, before you leave, do you have any kind of advice for the novice, like new trader, what they should try doing their first year, maybe not focus on the funding, focus on something else?
Yeah, what comes down and like you gotta have a stage for learning. Like I recommend, what if you, instead of like trying to go in different places for a while, trying to go back and forth, what if you took like let's say you give yourself like 30 days or like maybe 2 months or 3 months, 90 days for example, to just learn. Like these 90 days is dedicated to only learning. You're gonna learn all the things you can or you want during that 90 days. But then after that 90 days done, you just go to execution for the rest. So you do 90 days, you learn everything you want. Then after 90 days, you start to get into practice mode, and then you start to implement things. So you can, with the things you've learned, try to put it down into a strategy for yourself. Now the strategy could be really bad. It could be like the worst strategy ever, right? But at least you have something that you can test and you can try. And if it fails, you go back and see how you can make it better. Maybe at that point you get help from someone that you know, a trader or a coach, who could help you to kind of make things better. Because there's no point to kind of be wasting like me 2 years of trying to learn things and trying to
Right.
do it my own, doing nothing pretty much. You better set some time to just learn. Make sure you learn as much as you can, and then spend some time to practice as much as you can, and then refine as much as you can after, until you have something that works. I think if you kind of break it down that way, you stay organized with this, it can be a lot more impactful and better for you. And you'll be either having a strategy that's really bad, then if it fails, you have experience, or you have something that's like decent and you can trade with it and go there more alive after. So I think both ways work.
Yeah, those are some really good points. Amazing. Thank you so much, 18, for taking out the time to come on this podcast. We definitely learned a lot. Maybe in the future we'll have you on again. And guys, if you guys want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. And with that note, we are going to